Rights to freedom is dead. We're coming to get our check.
Black first, my brothers and my sisters. Welcome to the Afro Elite YouTube channel. I'm your host, Afro Elite. Before we get started, please make sure that you guys hit that like button, subscribe button, share button. All of that helps the reach and the growth of the channel. For everything you do, thank you so very much. Now, this is a very tragic story, a story that I don't want to report on, a story that I hate kind of reporting on. I don't like reporting on stories like this, but this is very, very important for us to keep track of, because when we advocate for hate crimes that are done to our people, people make it seem as if we're exaggerating. People make it seem as if racism and hate crimes are a thing of the past. And we have modern day examples, modern day instances of things like this happening. And this is just what's being reported on. We have situations like this happening. So it's with a heavy heart that I have to report on this, but I have to, because we have to get the narrative out there and fuel the fire that we need so we can get this hate crime bill. We have to get that done. We have to get it. And this stuff right here, these stories right here, are the evidence that we need. So this story, unfortunately, comes out of Rockford, Illinois, where a young only 18-year-old black boy, man, I guess young man, was taken out of this world by, I'm going to say it, the news is not going to say it, but a suspected white supremacist. And we're going to get into why we say that after the fact. But without any further ado, let's get into the story. It says, video taken by a Walmart shopper shows the moment Timothy Carter, remember that name, Timothy Carter, 28, wielding a knife he allegedly used to delete 18-year-old employee Jason Jenkins, surrenders to security officers. Now, before we continue, just notice the fact that they're saying he's 28 years old. He's still in his 20s. So for everyone saying that racism is in the past and it's just some old rednecks who are just stuck in their ways and they're dying off, so we don't have to worry about that in the future, just keep this in mind. This stuff should not be surprising. This stuff, we keep saying, it gets passed down. It's passed down. So when people say, well, it's 2024, it's not as bad as it used to be, I want you to ask, what used to happen that doesn't happen anymore? What used to happen that doesn't happen anymore? Because everything I see that used to happen back then is still currently going on today. Notice also that the news is using the word allegedly. Allegedly, allegedly, allegedly. Now, when the races are reversed and the accused is black, the word allegedly is very seldom used. It's almost a surefire thing. It's a sure for a fact. It's unquestionable. They caught red-handed. But the word allegedly is used when it comes to a hate crime against black people. Let's continue. It says, according to Rockford police, officers were called to Walmart at 3849 Northridge Drive around 6:05 p.m. on Sunday for a reported stabbing. According to the criminal complaint, witnesses heard Jenkins screaming for help after Carter allegedly took a knife from the store shelf, walked up behind him, and stabbed the teen in the lower back. Witnesses told police he uttered a racial slur after stabbing Jenkins in the unprovoked attack. Just that alone is evidence that this was a racial targeting, evidence that this was an anti-black hate crime. This is an anti-black hate crime. No, but they're not going to report it that way. They're not going to charge him that way. They won't do that. Now, a couple years ago, any black person that looked at an Asian person the wrong way was being charged with a hate crime. The news was blastering that. Any slight little thing that could be perceived as rude towards an Asian person or the Asian community was instantly received as a hate crime. And don't get me started on other religious communities. Don't get me started on them folks. Don't get me started on them. Anything that you look at them the wrong way, you step on their shoes in a line, hate crime. Now with this, you got to backflip through loops of fire in order for that to be considered a hate crime. This is what we're going through. While people make it seem like racism is a thing of the past, while people make it seem like we're exaggerating. Let's continue. Jenkins was taken to the local hospital where he underwent surgery but later died at 7:45 p.m. It continues to say Carter remained on the scene and was taken into custody. Now, here's a video of them taking him into custody. The video was taken by Heather Reichs, shows him walking through the aisles displaying a knife in his hands. He then places the knife on the ground and surrenders to security officers. According to the arrest report, Carter told authorities that he was having a mental health crisis earlier that afternoon and sought mental health treatment from Rosecrans at 605 Mulberry Street. Of course, it's always the mental health. It's always, I was having a mental health. They can never be held accountable for anything. Never be held accountable. Notice they don't say, the news don't say alleged. He had an alleged mental health crisis. Oh, he was having a mental health crisis. He sought help. This is what the news is doing, because the news is trying to side with him and his excuse and his reasoning for it, saying, "Oh, well, I mean, he did say he wanted some help, and he did say that he was looking for some help, didn't he? That's what he said, right? So he was having a legitimate mental health crisis." Now, notice they never, ever use that excuse when it's a black person. When a black person does something, it's never, well, he did have a history of mental illness and he did try to seek help and he did try to do all of these things, but, unfortunately, nobody cared for him. This is them victimizing the person who committed the hate crime. Now, like I said a couple years ago, we have to remember, a couple years ago, when it was a bunch of alleged hate crimes against Asians done by the black community, they didn't say the word alleged. They instantly framed it as a hate crime, and nobody brought up mental health. Nobody brought up the fact that these people might be suffering a mental health issue and a mental health crisis. Nobody brought that up, and none of the articles that you read, it was just black people committing hate crimes against Asians because we're just jealous of them and we just hate them so much and we've always terrorized them. Let them tell it. That's what they were saying. But nobody said anything about a mental health crisis. Nobody said anything about that. Yet, when the victim is black and the perpetrator is non-black, then mental health is a factor in this situation. It continues to say, when staff allegedly denied him treatment, Carter said he would delete himself, prompting the staff to transport him to UW Health Swedish American. Carter told police he did not receive mental health treatment and was released. He then made his way to Walmart located 5 miles away. So I'm assuming if he was transported and doing all this stuff, I assumed he walked. He walked 5 miles to the closest Walmart. It continues to say, police said they received surveillance video and said Carter was seen wandering the store prior to the attack, quote, giving all of the African American people dirty looks. according to the arrest report. This is why I said this is a suspected white supremacist. This is why I said that. This is exactly why I said that. Why are you, if you're having a mental health issue and your mind is just all over the place and you might be hallucinating or whatever excuse you used, why is it specifically black folk that you're giving this dirty, shady look to, that you're eyeing to figure out who's going to be your victim, who's going to be your target? Why are you targeting black Americans then? If you're just having a mental health crisis, why are you singling out black folk? What sense does that make? These excuses for mental health issues, it's why it's so convenient to me how it's particularly black people who are the target of this mental health crisis. I think that there needs to be some serious investigation going on to the mental health crisis of non-black America, because non-black America has a very bad thing when they wind up having an incident of mental health issue, a mental health crisis, and the only thing they can think about is killing black people. I think that that's a big problem. Let's continue. It says, in a follow-up statement, Rosecrans said, Rosecrans is shocked by this recent act of violence and unthinkable loss of life. While we can't and will not speak about the person involved in this incident, there are times in which individuals may seek our treatment but are assessed to be an acute risk to self and others. In these cases, we will safely refer to those individuals to a higher level of care. That's all they had to say. That's all they had to say. Okay. Continues to say, patients aged 10 and up who present to the emergency department are screened for risk to harm to self and others and triaged appropriately. Walmart remained closed on Monday and reopened Tuesday with extra security, according to an employee. So that was the article. That was the situation. Once again, my condolences to the young brother, but it's very interesting that they never brought up a hate crime. They didn't even allude to a hate crime. They didn't even really allude to the fact that this was a racial attack. Of course, the fact that they did bring up the fact that he was looking at the black folk at Walmart a certain type of way, but they didn't really allude to the fact that he was targeting black people, just that he kind of looked at them. That's the only little bit of evidence that you have. Now, I have a news clip from that article that I took, and I want you guys to listen to it and watch it because there's some things that are said that I think are very interesting. Copyright disclaimer. Under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use.
Accused of killing a young Rockford man inside Walmart appears in court for the second time. Timothy Carter was there in person this time. He was for a pretrial release hearing. The judge ruled he would be detained until his next court appearance. Emotions were high as family of Jason Jenkins filled the courtroom. Some held up.
Okay, just keep that in mind. He's a repeat offender. This is a repeat offender. I just want you guys to keep this in mind, because you will have folks on the right who will be all like, you guys keep locking them up and then you letting them go, lock them up, and you need to throw away the key when you lock them up. They only say that with black people. They don't say that when it comes to white folk. They don't say that, because we have situations like this that happen time and time again. And almost all of the time, they're repeat offenders. Almost all of the time, this is not their first incident. This is not their first run in the law, run with the law. This is not their first time at all. Almost all of the time, it's not. Yet, the same people who are tough on crime and the same people who are so pro law and order, they don't say anything about locking them up and keeping them in prison. It's only black folk that they say, well, why do you keep letting them go? Why do you keep letting them go? So just keep that in mind when you hear somebody who's so pro law and order talk about how we have rampant crime in society. You can cite situations like this and see what they say.
Signs, but were ordered by the judge to put them down. Rockford Mayor Tom McNamara was asked about the attack today. He says Jason should serve as a reminder of the good that's in the city.
Listen to what the mayor has to say about this situation, y'all. Just listen.
Having conversations with his family, having conversations with his pastor, Bishop Leonard James. We need to talk about him. That he was a church-going young man. He was a hard worker. He was someone who set goals and worked really hard to accomplish those goals. He was working and going to school. He was what we want in our young people.
The accused killer, Carter, is due.
Okay. We only have a little bit left. Let's finish playing that, and then I'm going to get to, because that's the whole reason I want to play this clip in the first place, is so you all can hear what the mayor had to say about it.
Back in court April 9th.
Okay. So he's due back in court April 9th. The mayor has to say, well, what we should be doing in this time is remembering Mr. Jenkins, and we should remembering how he was a church-going, hardworking student who was loved by everybody. Okay. What about the fact that there is an element of anti-black hatred that is causing people to commit crimes and take the life of black people away? This is the problem, because we got situations like the mayor and the sheriff and the news and all of them. They want to idolize the victim. They do this all of the time. They idolize the victim, which is putting the spotlight more so on the victim and less on the perpetrator. The spotlight needs to go on the perpetrator, because we need to, in this country, in the world, really, in this country, we need to do a deep analysis of how to get rid of all of this anti-black hatred and violence. But you can't do that because you're sitting up there trying to memorialize the victim. And I'm not saying that you can't put your respects and give your condolences and honor the victims and their life that they've lived. I'm not saying that. But you need to be focused on getting rid of the problem. Memorializing the victim and idolizing the victims won't get rid of the problem. Because you need to focus on, okay, well, what is his other history as involving black people? Who knew about this? What can we do to solve this, to prevent this the next time? We need to have a very serious conversation, because when it came to the Asian community, they were having, oh, how do we do this? How do we do that? How do we stop this hate crime? Notice the mayor doesn't call it a hate crime. Oh, this is like some tragic event. They're damn near making it seem like this is some type of tragic accident, like he passed away in a car accident or something like that. They're damn near making it seem like that. No, this was a racial hate crime. A white man walked 5 miles, found a knife, was looking at black folk, and stabbed a teenager in the back, caused him to lose his life. This is what needs to be talked about. And I'm not saying it's not a time nor a place to pay your respects to the victim and to give your condolences to the family and friends. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. And there is a time and a place for that. But you will never get to the solution. This will always be a thing that goes on and on and on and on and on if you don't hyper focus on what is the root of this problem. And as you can see, the mayor doesn't care about that, nor does the news, because the news isn't even mentioning the fact that this was a hate crime. The news isn't mentioning that. The mayor isn't mentioning that. Nobody is pressing for that. So when we show you the reports of hate crimes that are done to us, you got to look at situations like this and say, hey, these situations aren't added to the long list of hate crimes that we have to face. So every single hate crime statistic that shows us at the top, just take that with a grain of salt, because situations like this aren't counted. They're damn near making it seem like this is some type of freak accident. This is why we are pushing so hard for an anti-black hate crime bill. We are pushing hard for it. We need something that puts black society, specifically black Americans, in a protected status. Okay? We do that because there's a unique hate. And when I say black, I mean everybody black. Okay? And then when I say like foundational black Americans, I mean because there's a hate for black people, and then there's a unique targeting for black FBA folk. So that's why I'm saying that. That's why I bring that up. All right. But this is just tragic. This is a tragic story. I don't even know if the Jenkins sounds like a FBA name. I'm not sure whether he is or isn't. This is clearly an anti-black hate crime, and I'm not going to sit here and allow them to take the focus off of the actual perpetrator, Timothy Carter. I'm not going to allow them to take the focus off of him and put it on Mr. Jenkins. I'm not going to allow, or I'm saying Mr. Jenkins like this is an old man. This is an 18-year-old, or he was an 18-year-old. Okay. I'm not going to allow them to do that. We need to focus on the villainous, demented mind of Carter. That's who we need to focus on. That's what we need to focus on. This anti-black virus that plagues the society. That's what we need to focus on and purge and cure. That's what we need to do. Not sit up there like, well, we got him. He went to church. He went to school on time. And we just love him so much. That's not what we need to do at this point right now. That's not what we need to do. I want to know what you all think about this in the comments section below. Please let me know what you guys think about the situations. And once again, my condolences to the family. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section below. Also, you should be following me on my various social media platforms, which is Afro Elite on Instagram and then The Afro Elite on Twitter. Please do not forget to hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, hit that like button. All of that helps the reach and the growth of the channel. And for everything that you all do, I sincerely appreciate you. Thank you so very much. Now, with that being said, be one salute to every single last one of you, and you all have a good one.